horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, fenced in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and a very warm welcome. Yes, it is this Sunday sermon special and another special guest we've got lined up to mix the shows up. As you know, we do a rather chipper Sunday sermon on a normal day, but we've decided to get a second special guest in for this month just to mix it up. Yeah, I think you'll like this one, folks, because this is certainly Ireland's answer to, for me, one of the greatest characters in the game at the moment. It is Jonny Dineen.
How are you, lads? How are things?
Welcome, Jonny. Of course, Jonny is, for listeners that aren't au fait with Jonny, and there won't be many that aren't au fait with Jonny that are in racing. If you're not, Jonny is a professional punter in Ireland. Jonny, I'm going to let you start about yourself. How did you get into this game? What was special about horse racing for you when you were little? Because I know you've done both sides. You've done the bookmaking.
Yeah.
And now you've moved on to punting. So tell us all how it began.
I suppose you probably follow on from maybe hanging around with your dad a lot, young kids. And there was a greyhound track in our local town. It's still there. So that was a kind of a place where we used to congregate in that. And my dad used to go to the dogs. He wasn't a huge punter or anything like that, but he used to go to the dogs on a Friday night in our local town. And I used to go in there with him and we'd be knocking around. And eventually you'd have a little dabble in the toes and all that kind of stuff, you know. And you kind of got into it from that. And then I got into clerking for bookies when I was young.
Yeah.
I was like 13, 14 years of age. And I was able to clerk for like writing the bets for bookies. And then from the dogs, you kind of graduated onto maybe doing a point of a Sunday, like when you wouldn't be in school. I suppose at that time when I was young, 14, 15, I could earn maybe say 20 quid or 25 quid for a Friday night at the dogs clerking and maybe get 30 or 40 for a point, which is a lot of money at that time when you'd be getting maybe £2 spending money from your parents. You could have 50 or 60 quid in your pocket of a Monday, which was like a fortune to a young fella, myself. And then I started kind of speculate, betting away myself. And I was always interested in studying bookies, actually. When I used to go to the races with my dad, it wasn't really the betting. I was fascinated with the Sean Grahams and those kind of bookies and how they operated. It was almost like walking into Wall Street, looking at these guys operating. And when they'd be about to open up the betting and he'd price the board. And did you ever come across Sean Graham?
No, I haven't, no.
Just the Grahams, he's dead with a long time now, but he was a mesmeric operator on the stool.
The firm, Johnny, was one of the first to offer early morning prices from 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Very first. But you couldn't have them over, could you?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
They knew what was short before anyone. Unreal.
Oh, yeah, they wouldn't be slow now.
No.
And it didn't fall far from the tree. The father was an absolute genius of geniuses. I'd say he was the best bookmaker ever to come out of Ireland anyway. He stood in Cheltenham too on the rails. I'd say he was about the only Irish bookie there, actually legitimately there anyway. A lot of fellas used to come and maybe walk around laying their punters on the ground, but he was actually betting on the rails before anyone. They have a pitch in Cheltenham still there since you're allowed by pitches. They were, I'd say, nearly the first in. There's a few other guys, Davy Mean, but I was like the Stephen Littles of this world. Them kind of guys always fascinated me anyway. So that kind of was always on my mind, maybe to become a bookie at some stage.
Yeah, I can't believe how similar me and you are in how we got into this. I was exactly the same, clerking at dogs, running a betting office quite young, and then moving on to the punting side. So you actually saw both sides. You learned your trade and your skill early.
Yeah.
And like you said, Johnny, you're getting a pony in your pocket at a young age, and everyone else in your school or whatever, they're scrambling like £2.50 together.
Yeah.
It feels like this is real money. And from then on in, the fascination, like you said, with bookmakers, I was also the same, because I was trying to tap into who was the shrewdest on course. Who was the guy that was knocking one out?
It was a very unfortunate phrase, yeah.
Pardon the... It's a bit like Ladbrokes in the 90s, the magic sign they used to call them. When they knocked the Derek Smith horse out, Magnier horse out, that was it. You didn't want to be with that. It was the same thing with on-course book. If you knew an owner bet with a certain bookmaker and they were biggest price in the ring, well, like you say, it was a studious game. It wasn't just about the form book. It was about a bit of nous, and you had that. When you learn that at an early age, that gives you a massive standing as you grow older and more experience comes in and you start to adapt your game. Where were you brought up in Ireland?
In a place called Youghal. That'd be like 25 miles from Cork City, down the south.
Yeah. Is that dog track still open now?
It is, yeah, it's still there. They only kind of run it now for the bags. I haven't been there in donkey's years now, but I think it's Monday morning and Saturday afternoon. Whereas when we were growing up, we there, it was Tuesday and Friday nights. It was like the Friday night was the night I'd very rarely missed now. It was when I was a child. And then when you get older, when you had to actually pay to get in,
Yeah.
what we used to do was the hare was running in the first race and then climb over the wall by the toilet and get in. So if we paid to get in, we wouldn't be able to have a bet, you know.
That's it. Me as a youngster was the same. I used to go to like race courses in Yorkshire and Nottingham, Wetherby, local to Sheffield where I lived. But like you say, you get on a train, even though child fares back then were really cheap, it still costs you about £4.50 to £5 to get to Nottingham and back. So then if you've got 12 quid betting money, you had to make it pay. So you had to get at least the fiver back to feel good about the day. Great memories.
Absolutely, yeah. And like most of the time, not that it made a whole lot of difference at the time, but you'd leave the Greyhound track of a Friday night invariably like penniless. Like whatever I had thrown in. You'd have nothing coming out anyway, more than likely.
I used to start at Sheffield Ground Stadium. I got promoted to starter from trap lad. You used to have to lift the traps off. They haven't got these mechanical things they've got. Four of you would pick something that weighed about 200 kilos and try and get it off the track before they came back round. And I got promoted to starter. Oh, the days back then. You used to get your wages Friday night as a starter. And you'd be straight to the bookies. What trainers are telling you to back. And
It's all bollocks, isn't it? All rubbish, isn't it? I tell you nothing.
yeah, so it got to the last race, and I was responsible for sweeping out the traps. Like that was the starter's job. Made sure the traps were brushed. And I was doing my fucking brains in. In fact, I was owing Arnie Dennis, the bookie, like another week's wages on top of the week's wages.
You already owe him, yeah.
It was a young Barry Draper back then, and he came up to me and said, mine in the last 6. I feel awful for this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 didn't get a sweep. 6 got the big sweep. You could see the rubber pimples after I was in the trap. I think the 6 lap pinged the lids, bang, 2 clear out the traps as everything's slipping a little bit in the sandy traps. I'll never forget that, and that got me out of shit.
I remember once as a fella moved to Ireland with his family and he decided to set up a little operation breeding dogs, and he brought his best dog over and he went to bring to sell it at Norton Keynes. And I went down there with him when I was relatively young, and he said, I've got some buyers here. He said, some people with real money. We got this trial. He said, the dog's fucking off its nut, right? Geared off its fucking brain. He said, come down here, he says, and put the fucking dog in the trap. I said, what do you do? He said, just put it in the fucking trap. I've got to stand here with these buyers. They're going to give me the money after the trial. But somehow I managed to put the dog in the wrong fucking way. Cans go up. And of course it comes up, he said, you stupid cunt. Fucking couldn't get a buyer for it. So I didn't fucking know which end to put it in. There was no one there. It was like a 3-dog trial or whatever. and the offers of 5-10 grand quickly diminished, and he had to take the dog home. Not my fault. I don't think he ever won a graded race, but he had hopes for that. He said, you're a bock, you arse, and you fucking work that out, I am.
Johnny, have you any stories in Irish grounds? I read Curly's book, and obviously Curly with his dad telling him to give this dog this powder so it didn't win. You take it, son, to the dogs and make sure it has that powder and let the rest take care of itself. Barney looks at the race and goes, well, this'll win. And didn't give it the powder. The rest is history. 7-0. Have you any great greyhound tales
I suppose more horses' tales than greyhound tales. You'd hear some great stories of the horses now, but not so much in the greyhounds, because I've probably been young. Once I get into my 20s, I was definitely more interested in the horses than the dogs from that point on. Just tell a few stories about a trainer, one of the top trainers in Ireland at the time. He's dead now anyway, but he was in Listowel one year. He had 3 or 4 American owners over there, and they were staying out in Ballybunion, which would be not too far from Listowel. It was where all the kind of nighttime action would be. Yeah. You had 2 or 3 skinny ones on a Thursday, say. They were all going out to the races, say, around 11 o'clock. They were staying out in this house, out in this place anyway. The track is about 10 miles away. So they were getting ready to go, and they called one of the guys that was there, this American guy. There was no response. So they looked into his room, and he was fast asleep anyway, and said, come on, you better get up. We'll be going away in a minute. So your man still didn't move. So after about another 20 minutes, the trainer went in anyway. Wasn't your man inside in bed dead? He was after dying, right?
Fucking hell.
They told him, the fellas that were with him, what are we going to do? Just pull the sheet over his head. And he says, he's going to be dead when we come back. And then off they went to the races.
I bet he's still got a fucking bill at the end of the month, though.
It's an amazing story, really.
I tell you, the same guy, there was rumours of a really good horse, young horse. He was schooling after racing, say, in some place like Leopardstown, some sort of a schooling bumper that they had. This man wasn't going very well at the time, and there was fellas over from England. He told them that he had a real special horse that he was schooling. Now, he had nothing to do with this actual horse, but he knew of him. This yoke ran on the schooling bumper, and these fellas hung around to see him. This thing won the schooling race by about a furlong.
Yeah.
And like real impressive now. One sprinted up to the line. And when the people that owned him were coming to jockey, and here was your man landed alongside him, even though he didn't train him, walked in with the horse and then stood in for the debrief. And they were looking at him saying, what is he doing here? He's nothing to do with this. But then went up back up to the stand and pretended that it was his horse and sent these fellas off a horse, a similar coloured horse to England, and charged them an arm and a leg for it, even though it couldn't walk, the horse that he sent over. But he got them boys anyway. They thought they were getting the fellas that won in Leopardstown, but they were getting a different yoke.
That's classic, isn't it? Stupid English. It's the same with the dogs. They're always after you selling 400 quid dogs for £5,000 to stupid English owners.
I fell for that one.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so did I once as well, yeah.
There was a dog in Ireland, and I watched the video of it, and I thought, this is pretty rapid. It looked really good and everything, and it just won a 600-yard open somewhere in Ireland. Anyway, so rang up after the dog, and it was on for like 5. I offered 4, and he took it, and I immediately got sus after that.
We have one here.
Yeah. So he accepted the 4, and I had it transported across to David Prue's at Peterborough. Who did you buy this off? And I can't even remember the name.
Fucking that good, eh?
I said, oh, this such and such. He goes, oh dear. He says, he's a known doper.
Amongst all the others.
Yeah, he says, I'll do well to improve this one, he said. Got to the stage where I said, okay, so we'll go with it, see what it does. He got injured after 2 starts, and that was that. So retired after 2 starts.
That's the thing, though, because you see a lot of those advertisers were so good with words, weren't they? Even though you knew you were being had over, but the way they phrased it, it was always, well, yeah, maybe this, but you'd never get the best.
No.
They're just masters, absolute fucking masters.
So they've even had me, so I'm not ashamed to admit, the ground scene was special to me, like growing up, just because of the atmosphere back then, the roar of the crowd. It was a different kettle of fish to what we've got today.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I can remember clearly, like, some of the best nights I ever had were at the finals or the semi-final, quarter-final in Wimbledon, dogs. It's a great atmosphere down there.
Yeah.
Fantastic, weren't they? Especially those early round heats.
I can remember being there the night Prince Edward had a favourite Druids, John or something. He was around. That was a long time ago now. And I can remember Lar Teague winning the Derby. I was there that night. That's John McKenna Senior. He won it. There were some great nights in Wimbledon. Some brilliant. There was a great atmosphere there. Like the whole place just be humming. Yeah, absolutely.
John McGee was big for a few seasons because he had a big owner, Danny Damnier. I think he bought Hackney, didn't he? Until they found out he actually didn't have any money. He just went and bought. Classic fucking con. It's just going to be the saviour of English greyhound race, Hackney. And then when they came to write the cheque, he didn't have any fucking dough. He was just a bluffer. He had all these dogs with McGee, never paid for them either. It's unreal.
That's a great start to the show, really, like reminiscing about that lot. Crucially, like obviously Johnny has gone from the bookmaking side, clerking side. He's now established himself betting for a living, doing the thing on the other side of the fence. So Johnny, when did that come about? When did you make the switch?
I was always a punter anyway, and even when I was a bookie, I was still a punter, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There was a lot of races where we wouldn't take part in at all. Like quite regularly when we started off with no pitches, betting at the end of the line, you could drive 3 hours to a meeting to lay one horse, and you'd have to go slightly over the odds, but you wouldn't have a good position. So you might have to go like 5-4 or maybe 11-10 and even money chance, and let the firms come down and back it, which there wouldn't be any public business for it really, because it's just a rubbish pitch that you'd be dependent on fellas kind of arguing with you, if you know what I'm saying. I was always an opinion-based bookie. I wasn't really a proper bookie as such. I could make a book if I wanted to. Of course I could, and I could put horses together, and I know all about figures and all that stuff. But I like to bet to what I kind of had, not so much an opinion, but on maybe information as well. It wouldn't be all about opinion. Of course it's not. You need to know people as well and know what they're doing and be able to read markets. And as you say, you needed to be able to change your mind too. And you were saying there early on about certain bookies going on with horses 30 and 40 years ago. You knew you were in the shit if you were on one of them. It was the same when I was making a book. If you could read situations, and if you were siding with one, and the next thing you'd see some fella, as you say, that has an owner and he's going to top whack the horse that you're leaning towards, you have to maybe change your modus operandi in an instant and switch it around.
Yeah.
No matter what you think, if this man is going to be doing something that he shouldn't be doing, he's going to be right and you're probably going to be wrong. I was like a gambler on a bookmaking stool, basically. It wasn't really bookie as such. Even though I laid bets and all that, I kind of did it to suit myself rather than the public.
Yeah. Similarities between me and yourself, just growing up and developing in that way, very similar. What would you say to people in this day and age that'll say, oh, Jonny Dineen just backs favourite. What do you say to those people? Do you like the front end of the market purposely? Is it good psychologically to keep the losing runs down? Then it stops you speculating.
I mean, I've backed horses at all kinds of prices down through the years. Big prices to short price. I'd about as short as I'd back one now would be about 7 to 2 on, I'd say, or 3 on, but I'd have to think it's about a 20 on. Couldn't possibly envisage defeat to be backing one of those. And nowadays, I only back them to win small, because the mistake I used to make is that I could back, say, 3 winners in a row and have it all on the threes on chance. Like,
Yeah.
now I probably wouldn't play that way. I'd probably have the same stake on the threes on chance as I would on the 6 to 4 shot.
Yeah, the way I play, similar to yourself, I think I went through a patch like that. In other words, oh, well, this will either get me out of shit or whatever. Now, if I like, say, 2 in a race, and I like them fairly equally, I will have the big profit on the bigger price one.
Yeah.
And the saver on the sort of fab, if I like 2 in a race, because you're thinking, well, I really like it, but they've had the meat and bones off that, like a Masai Mara carcass, as I often say. It's dog eat dog now.
Yeah.
So I think now the one that said drifted that I still like, that's the one I'll make the actual winner on the race.
That's a very reasonable way to play it.
Because the psychology of it, I think you have to have almost religious devotion in your systems or your methods to be constantly betting massive prices and having 30, 40 bet losing runs. And people do it and they make money at it, and fair play to them. But I think it takes a special kind of person to be able to say, chalk off another losing day. And I do think you need to mix it up.
Of course. One of the reasons I back a lot of skinny price horses, they're so much easier to get on them.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
If you're drilling a fella back in 5 to 4 and even money chances, he don't really mind, because he'll say, look, these horses are supposed to win. They're the kind of prices they are that he should be hitting winners. He's going to hit winners, but he's going to come into a situation where he's going to back 3 or 4 even money chances losers in a row. And we'll see how we're fixed then with him. That's the kind of way they look at it. If you hit something at 10 to 1 with a guy and back another 10 to 1 winner with him, like, those things hurt, and guys remember those, and they very quickly will probably ostracize you and make sure that you can't get on in the future. It's all very well fencing 10 to 1 chances, but by the time you average out, if you do have something reasonable on them, you're probably finishing up taking 7 to 1 or 6 to 1 or 15 to 2 or 30 to 2 in around that area. It isn't easy to get on 10 to 1 shots. So I just find that if I did fancy a 10 or 12 to 1 chance, I'd still fancy the odd one now, but you can't get a meaningful amount on them, really. You don't have to back every favour. I don't back every favour right like that. I do back plenty of them.
Sure.
But I know from my experiences of even dealing with people, lane bets to people, you have a much better chance of carting a fella that goes for outsiders rather than betting at the top end of the market.
Yeah.
Because he'll invariably hit winners if he's up at the top 2 or 3 in the betting.
Yeah.
But he could go an unbelievable run back in 10, 20 to 1 shots without hitting a winner.
Yeah. And those guys do exist, but Christ, they've got balls of steel, because when you get to like loser number 15, you think, fuck me, do I know what I'm doing? But they got that religious devotion to keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. And another thing is, if I'm back in 25 to 1 shots or 20 to 1 shots, right? We'll say I'm back in 25 of them a week, 3 or 4 a day, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I need to hit 1 winner to get out of trouble, right? If I'm back in 5 to 4, 6 to 4, even money chances, if I miss one of those, it isn't the end of the world.
No, it isn't.
If I miss the 25 to 1 chance because I have the flu or some rubbish, I have to go to a wedding or something like that, that makes a huge difference. And I can't imagine the psychological damage.
It's crushing, because you think, when's the next one going to come along? It's not like a 6 to 4 chance. Well, I'll find one tomorrow.
Absolutely.
You might not see one for a week.
If I go to have to pick up a young fella from school or something like that, and maybe I mistimed the time of a race, and next thing I look and say, Jesus, I would have backed that. It was 10 to 11. But it's not the end of the world that I missed it. But if you put that into perspective and saying, Jesus, it was 25 to 1. That was the one winner that I needed to get out of the shit that I made. That's the type of thing that I couldn't stand anyway, really, myself.
Yeah.
You go into a betting shop nowadays, you go and try and back a 25 to 1 chance or a 20 to 1 chance over the counter.
No chance.
You're at nothing trying to do that.
It's not just trying to find those horses. It's all the stress of trying to get on, trying to little dodges and ruses to try and get the extra 100 quid on. And is it worth it? It is worth it if you know what you're doing and you're consistent. Yeah, of course it is. But not many people, I think, have got that skill. And if you're not that skilled, you're better off focusing on the front end of the market, because you're giving yourself a chance, aren't you?
Absolutely. The top end of the market, it's where the triers are as well. Like, the 25 to 1 chance isn't much good if it's being prepped for the run 3 races time.
No.
My style of punting, it wouldn't suit everyone. I look at races like the Stewards Cup, them kind of races, Walkingham's. And as far as I'm concerned, they don't exist, those things. You know what I mean?
I've no interest in them either. None at all. None at all.
If I see a 16 runner handicap and 5 furlongs in York of a Saturday. I could be watching that, and if you asked me 30 seconds after the race what won, I couldn't tell you.
No.
But even though I'd have watched it, I've no interest in them horses because on top of the races being so hard to find the winners of, the form doesn't relate to the next day. It'll be some other thing will win the race.
No.
The bookies love plugging the big field. Do you know? Because they want them, like, as I said on the racing post there about the Air Gold Cup, Ladbroke sponsored gold, silver, and bronze. I mean, one of them wasn't enough. You need 25 horses in each of the 3 races.
Yeah.
And God wouldn't find a winner of one of them. You're a joke there, absolute joke.
Yeah.
And I see fellas saying, "Oh, they're 5 places." Fuck's sake, the 6th horse is beaten about 3/4 of a length. Fuck's sake.
Mad.
Just interjecting it, just listening to that salvo from yourself, I kind of relate to it. I played differently to Johnny in my personal level, but from a tipping level, Johnny, we do a bar stewards tipping service. I can tell you now, customer retention, when you get a new sign up, you've got about 6 bets.
Yeah.
If they aren't in profit or at least breaking even after 6 bets,
They're out,
you're under pressure to keep them. It's a sad state of affairs.
Tipping, Johnny, as you probably worked out, and betting are two totally different exercises, because for the recreational punter like me, just the average Joe, their weekend or even their day is often defined by whether they back a winner or not, because it's that dopamine hit. They want fucking winners. They don't care if they're taking 2.5, 3 points under the odds. They've had a winner, and that can obviously set the tone of their life. And if you get 6 bets that lose, professionals like yourself will say, well, that's variance, that's part of the game. That's 6 fucking miserable days that they have to listen to their wives or their kids screaming. They can't even boost themselves with a winner. And that's the psychology. And it's so hard to retain people because they just want winners. They don't care about value and etc. They want winners.
That is true. But you probably will have even guys, if you tip, say 6-3 to 1 chances and they're all beat at 7-4, they won't even recognise that these were probably good tips. They'll just say, 6 duds. But if one of them won at 8-1, they'll say, that man is a genius. Even though he tipped it at 3-1. When I was a book, the bigger betting races, the biggest betting races were always like maidens and things like that. That's where you'd hold the big money. There was never any huge betting in these like poxy handicaps with 20 horses in them. There is this notion being peddled. It's probably coming from bookmakers and the papers or whatever. They're probably paying them to shove this down fellas' throats. It's like, the big race of the day now, tomorrow, is the Wokingham. It's a 5 furlong, whatever, in Ascot. And you couldn't pick the winner with 7 yards to go, probably, to freeze the telly. But that's
I like that. I like that. I have to remember that. That's a good one.
I like, that's
freeze the fucking telly. You couldn't pick it.
Freeze the telly 50 yards out.
And you still wouldn't back the winner of the fucking thing. But that's it. But that's the kind of races they want you betting on. And even if I started there, I noticed last year's in particular, there's one novice hurdle to start, and it's then handicap after that. And the reason they put the novice hurdle on at the start is because very often people aren't unsure about the ground, even though it mightn't be the most bookie-friendly race. You still have fellas like myself would probably get caught in them because the ground is twice as bad as you thought it was. If it was the 4th race and we could see all these knob handicaps being run and you'd say, geez, the ground is desperate there. It's like Sandown. Sandown has its own unique heavy ground, or whatever kind of stuff they have down there.
Yes.
And very often, the first race in Sandown of a Saturday is a novice hurdle.
Yep.
This thing that you're on is about 8-11, and its legs are just glue inside this, like they have wellies on coming around last man. Can't walk.
Drinking straws, the legs, aren't they? Like they bend under.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. But my argument is that the fellas that probably like to think that they know what they're doing are in bother now because they have 6 handicaps to try and get their money back.
Yeah.
Because they've done their money on what looked like the bet of the day. And now you might get them into these other races if they don't have maybe the discipline to stay out of them.
It's like change of direction, but we've had this conversation, Lee, that some of the best form judges that you've ever come across, people with an encyclopedic knowledge of form, are some of the worst punters you'll ever come across. And I often think knowledge of the form book's obviously important, blah, 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 as is networking, but punting is a skill that's quite separate from form study. And I know guys that can tell you inside out, but they are fucking inveterate losers because they're not punters. They don't understand gambling. They understand the form book, but they can't put the two things together. And I often think you don't need to be a superb form judge, but you do need to be a good money manager and a good gambler. And if you're both of those things, you can make money without being an expert on the form book. And I think what you just said, Johnny, is absolutely right.
Yeah, I think it's to me, knowing form is only a percentage of the overall cocktail as such.
Yeah.
To my eye, a few things that you need anyway. You need to know the form, or to a certain level anyway, for sure. You need to know people that know what they're talking about as well.
A judge of judges, as they used to say.
Exactly. And you probably know you need to have a bit of discipline. You need to know when you're running hot and running cold as well. Sometimes you can sense that if you hit someone that maybe the very first bet of the day falls at the last one, it's going to come home alone. Those days invariably don't end up well anyway. Like the one thing I find, and I see a lot of it lately, is I see loads of fellas that think they know it all.
Oh, yeah, fucking hell. Social media's full of experts, isn't it?
But there's plenty of those guys around still that think they know everything and they don't want to listen to anybody. You should listen to everyone. Now, you don't have to act on it, but you should take it in at the same time. But I know fellas there that no matter what when they hear about something, they in for shifting. It's their opinion. Like you could hear them saying, I made this yoke a 5-2 shot, as if it's set in stone that is its price. It's a 5-2 shot because I said it's 5-2.
But you don't know what you don't know. I make it 5-4, but actually it's 5 on because the piece of information that I don't know is it's rated 60 and works to fucking 120.
Yes. On the flip side of that, it's a 20-1 chance because it has been in its box for the last 3 weeks.
Correct.
Every day is a learning day, no matter how old you are.
Yes.
You'll learn something almost every day. But some guys think they know it all already. They don't want to learn. You know what I mean?
No, that's ridiculous.
Johnny, what's your ratio at the moment in terms of, obviously you use your eyes, hopefully.
Yeah.
Would be no good with that then. What level of info do you get these days? Is it pretty hot? Is it cold?
If you're doing it for a lot of years, I suppose you're probably lucky enough to be able to flush out the fellas that don't really know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
First of all, you have to be able to trust them. What they're actually telling you is what they think is true anyway. It may not even be true.
No.
Everyone that gets told lies and you pass them on, and you don't know that you're passing on a lie as such, but you always have to be wary of fellas that try and deliberately mislead you. You know what I mean? So you have to flush all those lads out if you can. And there will be fellas to try to get into you and doing that, getting stuff into you that have any benefit to you as such. But you get to know people and know what they're talking about, know what trainers that they know, jockeys that they might be slightly connected to from now and know someone that knows them or whatever. And then you kind of put pieces of the puzzle together and then come up with something. We maybe decide to have no bet in the race or whatever. But you have to trust people. I don't have a huge group of people that I speak to or trust because it's a kind of a dog-eat-dog game. And if there's only so much in the pot, like everyone's fairly hungry, you can't expect people to be
giving it away, 9
o'clock in the morning for you to take the price in front of them. Maybe you can't expect that to happen. But I would be happy that I'd have fellas there who would just say the race is at 2 o'clock and they knew something at 9 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't expect them to tell me at 9 o'clock in the morning, you should be on this. It's 2-1. But if it's 5-4 at 10-2, and they're probably already on, I'd expect them then to say that I heard this is well fancied.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have to tell you they knew it at 9 in the morning, you know what I mean?
And it's also the ability to recognise when you get someone new very quickly whether they're hot or not. I mean, years ago, I had a jockey who will remain nameless, and the day before mobile phones were banned in the weighing room, and he used to ring me before racing, and this is their best 2-year-old, this will win, this is going to lead, and he was fucking dynamite. I mean, I think his strike rate must have about 90%. I think he probably tipped me 2 losers out of about 30. But eventually, he obviously started to get windy, etc., and it was like no more information. I quickly recognised that this guy knows what he's doing, and I made hay. But you could have been dribbling along, having small bets, and then eventually it dries, because none of these golden rivers last forever.
No, they don't. You get to hear from fellas that won't have the final say as such in the running of the horse either. They'll know it's going well, but ultimately, whether it's going to be the green light or the red light, that won't be within their remit as such. You have to try and figure out from yourself that you'll know that if this does get the green light, and then you have to wait and see that it goes to a certain price, which, it looks like it's a buzzer now.
Yeah, you have to calibrate it.
If you do take the price on them, it definitely won't be the day thing, you know what I'm saying? So
it'll be another day, yeah.
Do you think that's more prevalent in Ireland than the UK in terms of price taking and stuff?
Yeah.
Or do you reckon it's the same?
If I was backing a horse in the morning now, right, the way I'd look at it anyway is there are certain stables you just couldn't possibly back.
Yeah.
But I would be able to identify the trainers that wouldn't be that interested in tricking with horses anyway as such, okay? And you'd always check on the owner as to who owns it. You'd be hoping that it'd be Baroness von Ullman or something like that. That wasn't going to...
Owner breeders, rich owners.
They wouldn't care if it was 4-1 or even money. It makes no difference to them anyway. And on top of that, if horses are being aimed at the bigger meetings, there's less chance that it's going to get a late red light because it's their target with 3 months. And just because somebody backed it from 10-1 to 5-1 in front of them, they've no choice but to go now because the horse is primed.
Yeah.
They have the jockey up. The beauty about national hunt racing in particular anyway, because I definitely know more about that than the flat, particularly in Ireland anyway. And you can look at the jockeys and you'll be able to say, well, to see him, he's riding that horse. There's no way in the world is he riding a horse that's not fancied anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
He's not going to block it.
Yeah.
And then secondly, if I booked a fella and I said, yeah, it'll win. Next thing you went into the parade ring and said, look, it's only about 50% fit. Well, the next time I'd look for him, he wouldn't ride for me.
No.
No.
You see me saying, look, that's fine, but I'm not interested ever in that messing. I only want to ride winners. And all the top jockeys in Ireland in particular, I'd say it's probably the same in England. A fella like Sean Bowen asked him to pull one up, he'd laugh at you. Like, if you see a small stable with Sean Bowen up or James Bowen or Sam Twisted Davies, there's no messing going to be going on there. You can feel safe to poke your head in front of somebody else.
You see these fellas on Twitter and all, oh, he stopped that, stop. The bottom line is, when you're at the top of the tree and you don't need to be stopping horses. You really don't for outside yards. Madness.
Unless you're John Frankham and Graham Bradley. And
Certainly Graham Bradley had a paymaster that you wouldn't want to say fucking no to, put it that way, Brian Wright. You wouldn't want to tell him to fuck off, honestly. Some friends of mine ended up searching Brian Wright's flat in the wake of all the big cocaine thing and et cetera, et cetera. They seized the tape on his answer phone. That's how long ago, when you had an answer phone with a cassette tape. And it was a message from Pat Edery. And it was saying, Brian, how you doing? It's Pat here. I'll ride the winner. It was something like Pontefract this afternoon. This is the name of the horse. It's absolute certainty. So, of course, everyone's, oh, fuck me. So they got the paper out. Sporting Life was them. Oh, fuck me, it's Pontefract today. Oh, okay, that's handy. And lo and behold, this horse is running with Pat Edery up. Now, the stupid fuckers didn't check the date of the message. So everybody piled in. Of course, it's tailed off. As that fucking Pat Edery couldn't tip shit out of a wheelbarrow until they worked out that the message was left 2 weeks before when it won at 16-1, when Pat Edery said it would win. So there you go. There's a message. Always check every piece of information before you put your head down. Yeah, absolutely true.
Great story.
That's good.
Give me your ideal race or race card that you'd like to bet on. I know where I think you're coming from.
I'd definitely be angling towards conditions races for starters. Novice hurdles in England, whatever you like, maiden hurdles in Ireland, novice chases in both countries, them kind of races, winners of ones and things like that. The way I look at it, in a maiden hurdle or a novice hurdle, if you can find the one up at the top of the market, the beauty about those races is that most of the opposition are doing their best to lose in a maiden hurdle and a novice hurdle. If there's 14, 15 runners, there's mostly 2 or 3 probably buzzers, and the rest of them are all being handicapped. And the job is to finish as far back from the fancied ones as you could possibly can. So you're on one that's trying to win against a whole heap of trying to lose. You probably only have about 1.5 horses to beat in some of these races, that kind of way. Narrow it down to 2. You're basically matchups. And I like to bet in those kind of races. So obviously you're not going to be getting huge prices then at the same time. But a maiden hurdle now would be probably my favourite because there's less chance of them falling as well rather than the chase.
The maiden hurdles in Ireland. One tip I could give to our listeners, and I think you'd concur with this, is if you're at home punting and you've got the racing TV on there, watch the walk round because I'll give you the betting. It could be 5-4, 7-4, 100-30, and then it's about 20s bar 3.
Yeah.
Watch the walk round. And then if the 100-30 chance is sat 2/3 of the way back down the field on the walk round, you know it's not the day.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying that happens every day of the week.
No, but it does happen.
It does happen.
Yeah.
And that's a great clue. You haven't got the beauty of that on the flat. The flat, they all go in the stalls. You haven't got a clue where the jockey's going to sit that horse until the first furlong or the first furlong and a half. In jumps racing, you know exactly where they're going to sit because you watch the walk round. And that can reveal so many clues in terms of a...
I agree with you. Even the walkway makes a huge difference. I could often have a bet in a novice hurdle in England or in Maiden on the walkway on who's in front of who in the walkway. If I couldn't split them and they were, say, 6-4 each of 2, I'd back the one that's making the running.
Yep, 100%.
The other one has to pass them anyway. Do you know what I mean?
That's a good point. I never thought of that. Yeah.
I've seen maiden hurdles and novice hurdles in Ireland. He's quite funny sometimes. Like what I've just said, the market scenario I've just pointed out.
Yeah.
There'll be one out the top 3 that might be held up and it's not today. The other 2 will just get on with it. The rest will start 30, 40 yards behind them.
Yeah, that's it. The thing is with those races is if just say I have the 5-4 favourite and trained by whoever, and I also have a horse in the race, he's 50-1, and he comes and does me, right? The jockey's going to get strung up. You'll never ride for the trainer again, all this kind of stuff. If that happens in a maiden, like Sheik Hamdan with the black hat or something like that comes along and beats the other one, nobody cares. They won't even know the race is on, them fellas. You know what I'm saying?
Today, Your Highness. Oh, that's very good. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely, yeah.
Yeah, he's 3/4 brother to Boyd. Oh, that's very good. Lovely. Them fellas, and the flat maidens, particularly big field men. I never fancy betting in those too much because they have second strings that can pop up. And I do think a lot of flat trainers are overrated too. I do think jumps trainers, as a rule, are better than flat
I
trainers.
raised this years ago and on our pod. I don't think I was universally agreed with, but I do think it's harder. There's more skill involved in training a horse to jump and race than it is to train a horse on the flat. Put it this way. The theory is you've got people like Mick Quinn, Mick Shannon, and various other people who have changed careers from being footballers to within a short space of time have been moderately successful flat trainers. They'd no way make the impact they did as jump trainers as they did on the flat. And that's because I think training flat horses is a lot easier than jumps horses. How many people like
Yeah.
footballers suddenly say, you know what, I'm going to be a jumps trainer? It's easy. They just go and buy some horses, get a license out and train them on the flat. And you can make a living doing that if you've got good patronage.
Yeah.
But you can't do it on the jump. Fucking hard. Much harder.
I'll tell you a good example of that. I know a jumps jock retired. This guy said to him, would you go down the training route? And he said, I don't think so. I don't think I would. But he said, if I did go down the training route, I think I'd go on the flat.
Totally.
And he said, why would you do that? Because he'll tell you why. He said, I've ridden for some good jumps trainers. I'm telling you, these are good trainers. They have 7 or 8 winners a year. I see fellas that couldn't tie their own shoelaces and they're having 100 winners a year in the flat. You wouldn't send them to the shop for milk, some of these guys, and they can have 100 winners in the flat. It's a total different ballgame altogether.
I agree with you 200%, Johnny. 1,000% I agree with you. I reckon anyone with a brain and some degree of understanding of horses could make an okay impact on the flat. Literally anyone, because I don't think it's that hard being a flat trainer. I'm not talking about Hayden O'Brien or Gosden or that level of...
Yeah, of course, yeah.
A middle of the road, bottom tier flat trainer, I reckon pretty much anyone can do it. Just getting the right staff, not being a cunt to them, pay them reasonably well. I reckon you could do all right. I really do. But jumps, totally different. I reckon that's a much harder game.
I agree.
Well, I think recent examples of that we've seen actually in terms of Jenny Candlish on the flat have decided to trade a few winners. We've seen Dr. Newland do it. We've seen Fergal O'Brien's dabble with the flat in the UK. And I'm not au fait with the Irish trainers that have done this. Johnny, have you any Irish examples of jumps trainers that have adapted to the flat? And
Paddy Toomey was originally a jumps trainer.
Never knew that.
He trained bumper horses 15 and 20 years ago. He won a bumper in Punchestown one year, and they say nobody knew who he was. He sold it to McMahon's. I think it made a fortune now. The horse with a big long name. It couldn't walk when it left the yard. You know what I mean? He was obviously sharper than people gave credit for. I'm just trying to think, is there...
Anytime Irish jumps trainers have a pop at handicaps in this country, they win, don't they?
Yeah, they win them, yeah.
Willie Mullins.
Charles Burns, all them fellas is right, yeah. There's no doubt in the world, if Mullins was younger and he went training on the flat, it'd be just him and Aidan O'Brien. He'd wipe all the rest of them, the Ger Lyons and all them fellas. He'd wipe them off the face of the earth. And there'd be every chance he'd be probably as good, if not better than O'Brien. I don't know. There wouldn't be much in it anyway.
Why do you think Willie's the genius that he is?
I don't know. Some people have talents and other people don't. The attention to detail. He has fellas like Ruby, David, Casey. You care what kind of staff other fellas have. They wouldn't hold a court to them kind of fellas at the same time.
Success breeds success, doesn't it?
Them fellas are putting in big input, and he's got his own young fella there who's like a jockey of an amateur rider, and I'd say he must have good staff, but he obviously knows what he's doing. And then when you get to a level, you get a queue to give you horses. It even widens the gap. The gap between him and the other trainers is going to widen this year and the next year and the year after.
They say that the reason for the recent success is down to the fact that Willie and his owners have boxed off the French angle. So when a really good French recruit comes along, they've all got first refusal. And the reason why they get first refusal, because they pay a good price.
Yeah.
So they don't have to go to auction. They don't have to worry about if they're going to get the money they want. They get proper money for their horse. And that's why apparently Willie gets all the sort of the top recruits as well.
And they get paid.
Yeah.
They get
Well,
paid. They don't have any bullshit bloodstock agents talking up a storm. And I dare say, as you say, nothing succeeds like success. Willie Mullins is obviously a very, very, very intelligent man who just happens to train racehorses. He's one of those guys that pretty much whatever thing he turned his hand to, he'd be super successful. But he's a great networker. And he's not relying on just having people with big fat checkbooks going to the sales and buying stuff. He's out there identifying stock before it comes to the sales. The stuff he buys isn't offered for sale. And that's to do with networking, building those kind of relationships. Well, I do think a lot of trainers just rely on, oh, I've got a rich owner, how much he got, get an agent, the budget's this, go and buy him something. And that seems to be the MO of a lot of trainers. Just go and buy him something, but make sure I get my few quid out of it.
That's the thing. The most important thing on the page is the vendor. What's he going to get back? They wouldn't be interested unless they're dealing with someone that they know that's going to look after them properly. So success breeds success too, and everybody wants to be involved with him now rather than anybody else. You know, that's
Good. Elliott at one point was meant to be the next big thing, wasn't he? He was meant to be challenging Mullins, and he was doing a fucking dance, having one winner last year at Cheltenham.
Yeah.
One winner. 5-6 years ago, you think, oh, he'd be like, neck and neck. He's tailed off, isn't he, relative? But he's not. He's still in second place, but he's tailed off relative to his position with Willie Mullins.
The gap has widened between him and Mullins. I would think, though, I might be wrong about this, that the next champion trainer in Ireland that won't be Willie Mullins will be Patrick Mullins, probably.
Yeah.
They're getting more powerful by the day, and the gap is widening, and nobody wants to be involved with anybody else, really. As far as I can see, I don't know too many of them. I know one or two that have big money. They don't care about what they spend, as long as they get a winner somewhere at one of the bigger meets.
But the very, very wealthy have their own economy. Because people used to say, oh, well, there's a global economic crisis, bloodstock prices will be deflated. No, they won't. And they can continue to go up because those guys don't operate in the normal economy like you and me, worrying about the bills and this, that and the other, because money's no object.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether they pay 1.5 million, 2 million, 3 million on the flat. It doesn't matter because what they want is to win against their peers, against other billionaires. And when you've got an interest in the jumps and you want your horses Willie Mullins, because that's where all the other billionaires have their horses.
I was in Cheltenham about 3 years ago, and a guy gave me a badge to get into the owners and trainers. I'd never been. It's kind of a wristband or something like that anyway. So I went in anyway. Yeah. And it was the day Sir Gerard won the first race on the Wednesday. It was lashing rain, the worst day ever there. It was brutal. And I was walking around. I was watching this guy at a table. He was there with his wife. He had a daughter, and I'd say her boyfriend, or a son and her and his girlfriend, and a couple of younger kids, right? They were all around this one circular table. So he had the table taken for the day, I'd imagine, or for lunch or whatever anyway, right? Now, obviously they had a share in our own of the horse that was running that day. Couldn't tell you what it was.
Yeah.
But
no.
I was studying him for about 5 minutes, and to me, money could not buy what that man was getting out of that day. He had all his family there. He was in the owners and trainers in Cheltenham, and everyone was having a bumper of a time. If that meant giving 300-400 grand horses to Paul Nicholls or Nigel Twiston Davies or Dan Skelton, it was money well spent to get into this tent on that day.
He's had value.
Yes.
And you might look at that and go, what a load of bollocks. What a waste of money. He's been ripped off. He's been turned over. Tom Malone has charged him double what it's fucking worth. He doesn't care.
On that particular day anyway, horses didn't cost him half enough.
People don't get that, not looking at the bottom line.
No.
And because racing does a strange thing to very rich and very successful businessmen. In their business life, they'd cut you for a quid. Every penny, every pound is a prisoner. Yeah. They're ruthless. They make decisions based purely on the economics of it. But horses turn people just gaga. They'll make lunatic decisions, which in their business life they wouldn't make. But because it's got a horse, got 4 legs, oh yeah, go up to what you think. Whereas if it was buying an asset for their business, they're saying, they fucking wouldn't do it.
100%. I even know a bookmaker, very big bookmaker, he's retired now, but he told me that the best punters he had were all businessmen, and the more successful they were in their own business, the bigger idiots they were punting. If you said to him, a point-to-point horse there in Ireland, he'll cost 650,000, he'll cost about 40 grand a year to train.
Yeah.
So he'd been training for 4 years. So let's say 850, and he win about 40,000 in prize money. Would you want him? They'd take him in a heartbeat, wouldn't they? Like, you know what I mean?
Of course they would. Yeah. Will he run at Cheltenham? Yes. We can enter him at Cheltenham. Yeah, fuck it, go on then. He'll be tailed off, but we'll enter him. He wouldn't win if he cut across the middle.
Yeah.
But you can have a day out at the fest.
That is it.
Fucking, we should become Bloodstock, eh? We'd be brilliant. We've got to do this. We're
wrong industry we're in at the moment.
Yeah, that's true.
And talking about the times now, of course, getting bets on, Johnny, how do you cope with getting money on these days?
I can get on still, maybe not to the levels that we used to, but I don't bet like that anymore anyway, so I can get on reasonable amount. I hear fellas saying they can't get on, and I know it's not easy to get on. I can still get on it at different points in the day. I can get on a few quid in the morning, early-ish.
Yep.
Not the night before, no.
Nope.
And I can get on a few quid in shops from a certain point on as well. If you can get an odd bet on at the races. At the races in particular, you have to back the short ones. They're not interested in laying 8 and 10 to 1 shot. You can't get on them at all. But if you fancy a 5 and 6 to 4 shot, you could easily ring it for these 2, 5, 4 for a fiver, and it's 6 to 4 for what you like at the races.
Yeah, last time I went to Ireland, I went to Listowel. There was one of Aiden's that I thought was a good thing, really. 11 to 10 chance. I checked on the machine, it was 2.22, and I thought, these lads are laying 11 to 10. I'm happy to give them my business at 11 to 10.
Yeah.
It's a fair bet. No problem. I know it's not a massive bet,
Yeah.
1,000 to 1,100, no problem. Not bad an island.
Yeah. It could easily be 2-1-2 as well, and they'd still be going 11 to 10 possibly. Like.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Or maybe even 208 even, like, because there's no punters there to back up in a lot of meetings. There isn't a big discrepancy between the machine price and the on-course price at times. So there's another little avenue every now and then you have the exchange then after that. But this would be basically my kind of a 4 little avenues.
Yeah, I'm going to back you up at the shorter end of the market because you've just highlighted there very simply to punters that are out there and thinking, well, I can't get a bet on this and the other. Like you said, if you want the 10 to 1, it's 11 on the exchange and the books are like 15 or 2 on course. That's like 3.5 points you've got to take under an exchange price. But like you've just said, there'll be times there's 5 to 4 shots, 6 to 5 shots, 11 to 8 shots that are very similarly priced on the machine that's available on course because they're more amenable to laying a bet at that price.
Exactly. You take the commission out of it, there's virtually nothing in it a lot of the time, with skinny ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But a big discrepancy with a 10 to 1 chance, like at the races, could be 16 on the machine. Now, if you're only betting in smallish enough units, you'd be mad to take the 10 to 1 at the races. As you say, 6 to 5, it could be 2.22, even 2.2 even. It wouldn't even be 2.22. They'd be going to machine price because very often there's nobody there and they don't have punters and they don't really want to be going to the exchange to lay every single horse because it defeats the purpose of even going there in the first place. You wouldn't win laying every horse in the machine anyway.
Yep. Advice here to future tipsters that are out there listening to this, or if you're thinking about setting up a tipping line, the best advice I can give you, and it's free, of course, on this podcast, is don't tip big prices on your tipping shows or whatever you do. The reason being is because if you're very good, and you might be the best at it or whatever, or one of the best. If you tip at 16 to 1, the chances are the people that follow you of getting that 16 to 1, there's only a very small minority will get it. The next price is 12, 10, 8. And then all of a sudden, you've got angry people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they've missed the price. Well, it's 8 now. And then the worst part happens. You think you've done brilliant when it wins 16 into 6. Oh, what a genius we are. But then half your punters aren't on because they can't, they've missed it. That's the point. That annoys your fan base, so to speak, if you're popular.
I agree with you, yeah.
To be honest, it's quite refreshing to hear you as well, because I've listened to you on Up in the Ant on Racing Post. I find you quite refreshing because you're not one of them boomers or these people that shouts themselves from the rooftops. You even said the other week, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I've done my absolute bollock laying a few.
I regularly lay a lot of winners. When you lay one, you lay about 5 in a row. It's unbelievable how it comes up like that. If you lay 5 losers, you lay another 5 losers. It's amazing. The minute one wins, oh my God, it's anything's possible then. If I'm playing on the machine, I very often don't lay many favourites. I'm not saying I wouldn't lay, but I would lay someone. But very often, the other end of the market even, and lay big price horses just for maybe even an interest in the race. My motto when I'm looking to try and lay horses is, whatever it is, don't lay the winner.
Yeah.
That's the first thing you've got to do anyway. Don't lay the winner.
The shrewdest thing I always find about Irish trainers, and I think they're shrewder than English trainers for this reason, and Scottish and Welsh, sorry to leave you guys out, is the Irish trainers seem to work to a target a lot better than the UK trainers. The UK trainers just train for winners. The Irish trainers will have a think, oh, we've got a race for him there at Ballinrobe.
But though, Lee, you look at Cheltenham, they're not afraid to win races along the way.
No.
Right? So English trainers think, oh, you need 9 duck eggs and then come Cheltenham. You see many Irish handicap winners, they've won races. And because the ability not just to target, but to train them to win throughout the season. And that's just intrinsically better horsemen, as well as being smarter than our trainers.
Martin Brazel, he's one I really look out for now at the festival because in recent times, he's a master. He will run the Leopardstown in the big handicaps down the field. You straight away, it's in the notebook. You know what they're planning. It's usually for the Mulryans.
Yeah.
Sean Moran, yeah.
Yeah.
Very shrewd. You can see what they're doing. And I think that's the difference with Irish trainers. That they sometimes lay them out for Galway, they'll lay them out for a festival. And I like that. I think that's something you can set your clock by in terms of betting on Irish racing.
Well, they're just better. People say, "Oh, yeah, mad for Irish trainers." They are just better trainers technically, but they also understand the planning process more effectively, and they are patient. And I do think Irish owners get the game more than English ones. Okay, so they know the need to be patient. So you want, I don't know, target something for Galway or Cheltenham. You've got to be patient, and I just don't think English owners have that in their DNA like Irish people do. Bottom line is, if your life depended on it, who would you have training for you, Willie Mullins or fucking Dan Skelton? It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, surely.
Coming back to some more questions, who are the Irish trainers and jockeys that you actually like? Some trainers will have an Indian sign on you and like, so I can't back one of his.
Yeah.
But who are the trainers and jockeys that you can point out to our listeners in Ireland that you like to follow?
Do you want to just stick to National Hunt, I suppose, is it right, or whatever?
Sure, of course. Yeah, we'll come to
Yeah.
national season.
Yeah. Mullins is on a pedestal. Then you have Elliott is obviously a good trainer, but he doesn't really get the results that the Armory he gets. Like, he should probably be doing better.
Yep.
The Brahma is a very streaky operator. He can be good for certain parts of the year, and then suddenly he can never win it for a month or more. And then he seems to come back right around Cheltenham again. I don't know. He's a hard man to figure out at times. Cromwell is a great operator, very good operator. Now can mix it flat and jumps. Burns is a genius. Burns is as good as anyone. It's the best man ever for naming the day anyway. Like, a lot of these fellas can have winners, but they couldn't possibly tell you the day that they'll win.
No, I
But
agree
this
with
man
that.
can name the day, can name the hour, and will put his money down as well.
Yes.
Like Joseph O'Brien has a better flat record
Yeah.
than jumps, definitely. That's more proof that it is easier to train on the flat. Because he gets plenty of ammunition too that he should probably be doing slightly better. Declan Queally is a good operator going forward. He's on an upward curve. Emmett Mullins obviously is good.
Yeah.
I'll just go for some of the smaller fellas. There's a fella now that knows what he's doing is Sam Curling.
Yeah.
He's good. Another fella there, Keane Collins, is a youngish fella coming through. He looks like he's going to be good. Ian Donoghue, that's Keith Donoghue's brother. He's going to be okay now. But of maybe the fellas under the radar, you'd say Curling,
Yeah.
Ian Donoghue, and maybe Keane Collins, I'd say.
We'll make a note of those.
The jockeys, I think, well, obviously Townend.
Yep.
Yep.
Darragh O'Keefe is fantastic rider. As good as anyone, I would have said. He's a bit like a Bone or a McCoy. He's aggressive. He's proactive. He's everything you want. He's a real punter's jockey. He's never in the wrong places, and he'd give every horse the best possible chance of winning. Like, some of these clowns are riding horses there, and they're giving horses the best chance to lose. I'm not saying they're losing them all, but they do things like that don't increase the horse's chances. Like, I see fellas there coming at the last, like, and depending on a good jump to win, even though they're riding the horse that's about 10 lengths the best horse in the race, if he makes a mistake, he's going to get beat. Like, the good jockeys will allow for a mistake at the last. They'll be 3 or 4 in front when they get down to it. If they're able, like I'm saying, if they have the horse. Kennedy is obviously good. Danny Gilligan is a great rider. Keith Donoghue is obviously a great jockey.
Yes, I like him. I think he's good.
Yeah, he's very smooth and classy rider, yeah. There's a few younger fellas coming up. There's a fella called Staples. Did you ever see him?
Yes, that was mentioned by our Irish guy on Patreon. He's like going to be top class.
He's going to be good. There's another fella there, Keneally. He's only just gone professional. He's claiming £7. He's stealing the 7. He's as good as a lot of pros. You know, the fellas are claiming nothing.
Who's that? Keneally?
Keneally, yeah. He rides a bit for Declan Queally.
Yeah.
He was an amateur, but I think he's about 30 years of age. He's not a young fella either.
Okay.
But he's riding now as a pro, but he's claiming £7. But he should be claiming nothing really, probably, you know.
Right, £7 nothing then, yeah.
Definitely, if he's down as far as 3 anyway, it's still good value. You know what I mean? Him and Staples now are two good fellas like that can both claim at the minute.
Yeah.
If they landed in that opportunity riders race or that conditional riders race at Cheltenham at the November meeting, like, they'd be big asset in a race like that now. You know, that kind of way.
Johnny, you'll like this one. I did some work on the open meeting. You make fortune backing Irish train runners at this meeting.
Just blind. Back and blind.
Back and blind, yeah. Anything, yeah. And nearly every year. He won 27 points at Betfair SP. It won about 36 points at Morning Prices. And it's done it since 2018. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. There you go.
We're useless, aren't we? We're shit at everything.
Subscribe to Patreon, folks, anyway. You'll get this kind of shit.
That's amazing. The sense you get is, without sort of blowing smoke up the island's arse, that they can win pretty much anything they want to. really. They can and they do, but whatever they target, they win if they really want to win it, and that's awful, isn't it, for British racing?
Yeah, long term, it doesn't do the game much good, I don't think, really.
No.
The domination is in too small a hands. And one of the big things that's happened in the last few years, I've noticed it anyway, and it makes life tricky for me now,
Yeah.
my kind of punting, is that Guy is a real good horse there, right? And just say it's a novice hurdler or a novice chaser, say, okay, thinks he's going to be top drawer anyway, right? He brings him to a novice chase and he takes on one of Mullins's.
Yeah.
And it gets beat, right? Then they realise, okay, it's not going to be a top novice
No.
chaser. So what we'll do now, we'll stick it back in its box probably for whatever.
Yeah.
Bring it out about probably 75% fit.
Yes.
At Christmas, it'll get beat again. Then they'll bring it to a race where it can't lose.
Yes.
And it'll get beat again. And suddenly you're thinking, geez, that's no good. And next thing, it arrives in a handicap chase. It's probably a grade 1.5 horse, and it's running off about a 134 or 5, and it bowls in. That's the problem for fellas like me, because we're getting caught back in that in the race the third day, because it can't lose here.
Yeah.
But they've decided to trick with it because it's never going to cut it as a grade 1 horse.
Yes.
It's a real good handicapping horse at the same time.
And that must apply to lots of horses, because Mullins just has the game by the bollocks, doesn't he? Even his sort
Yeah,
of
exactly.
overflow yard horses, people would cut their right nut off to have those in top English yards, wouldn't they? And they'd be like the second string.
That's it. Mullins even sends horses to November meeting and the one before
Yeah.
at Cheltenham. And they're ginnets, like.
Family pets.
Yeah, in their eyes, they're no good, them horses. But some of them even win.
Damning, isn't it? His third strings can just come and mop
Yeah.
up when he wants. But as you say, long term, that's not great for the game. Not long term.
No, it's not really. No, it's not. It's a bit like the football with Real Madrid and Barcelona. Nobody else counts, or maybe Atletico. I don't know, but like Celtic Rangers for 50 years. Maybe it might be different nowadays. But like when all the horses are in the one hand, that makes it boring, doesn't it? When he has 4 horses in a race, and
Yeah.
you like to see it spread around a bit anyway, at the very least.
You would.
Coming towards the end of the show now, we're at the 2 final questions that I've got for you. The first one is, at this stage, what horse saw exciting you most for this national hunt season in terms of either A, an anti-post bet for Cheltenham, or B, this is a horse that you want to be following this winter?
Yeah.
I haven't had an anti-post bet for. I haven't even thought of it yet, really, to be honest. You know, the novice horses like kind of always whet the appetite, the saliva moving. I love a 2-mile novice chase. I mean, I presume that horse that won the Supreme will be going to novice chasing this year. Mullins had a horse run in Mallow in a bumper car. Normally the bumpers down there wouldn't be brilliant, but geez, this horse won. I think his name is Dr. Dumenil. I think that's what his name is. He won a race in Cork around Easter time. He was supposed to have a fairly big reputation. Jesus, he didn't half win now at the same time. Dr. D-U and then M-E-S-N-I-L. He won in Cork on the 20th of April. Dr. Mesnil, he's by Dr. Dino. He won by half the track. I'd imagine he's a good horse. You'd be surprised if he doesn't turn out into a very minimum a grade 2 horse anyway. I would imagine he is anyway. He actually has a similar enough profile to the horse that won this year's Supreme insofar as that he won a weak bumper easy, but 11 and 13, he won by half the track, and like he was backed off the board too. You know, I'd say they didn't half know what they had, and I'd be surprised if he's not a very good horse.
Perfect.
Everyone loves a banker. That's what we want. Winners, dopamine hits, as Chris says.
We do.
To finish proceedings, and I've really enjoyed this.
Me too. It's been brilliant.
I think it's pure punting. This is what it is. This is what the game should be
None
about.
of this bullshit breeding bollocks and all that. And no one gives a shit about that crap.
Come on, Kevin Blake. Come on, let's punt.
No, well, he never told us any fucking buzzers, did he? Did he mark your card? Did he fuck? No.
No, he's kept
interest.
Kevin Blake kept his cards close to his chest.
Doesn't bet.
Terrible, Kevin Blake. So coming on to the final question, Johnny, is one we asked Kevin. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute, Johnny, you're a fighting man. But if it came to it at a charity boxing event, right, you've got to put the gloves on, Johnny, and start training. The question is, who would you fight? But firstly, I would like to say, would you have Mr. Miyagi training you?
Yeah, maybe so. I'll tell you, 2 things I'd be looking for anyway. Gary Barwell, what weight is he? He's about 6 stone, is he?
And he's had a heart attack, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah.
So we'll have him,
He'd be about my range now, I'd say.
Yeah.
So Blake said McCoy, you'd have to probably bill that as the top bill. And then just underneath, it's Jonny Dineen versus Gary Barlow.
And I'd fight Kirsten Rousing as well. I reckon I could do her. Honestly, what she's
No, you'd need to marry her.
either would be good. Either, it doesn't bother me.
You know,
Yeah.
Get a few quid out, but yeah, fucking yeah.
marry her and no
I
prenuptials.
wouldn't be a boxing guy now myself, I don't
No,
think.
nor me.
No,
I wouldn't be able to know off a rope anyway, that's for certain.
Couldn't hold my hands up to bless myself.
Yeah.
yeah. So you've had it flipped.
No,
Johnny is more of a lover than a fighter, and he loves you all. He loves the punting game.
He does.
He's been around it all the time. You love his honesty, and that's what we've brought on this show. And
Yes,
it's been
brilliant.
a pleasure to do. So thank you, Johnny, for appearing. That's all from us. Bye for now.